It is Tuesday, the best day of the week. Dave McCann, Blaine Fowler. Welcome to the Wise Guys. Typically, we like to mess around at the start of the show, but we got to get right to business tonight.
Yeah, we got to get to business because we got a great guest coming on quickly. Make sure that you follow us on YouTube. We'll put the link in the chat. And if you hit that subscribe button, it's free. And when you click on the bell, you get notifications.
Ding.
Yeah, whenever we post something, we go live, anything like that, you're notified. So if you've already subscribed, then you got a little notification just a few minutes ago saying, hey, we're going live with Wise Guys tonight. So please subscribe. The more subscribers we get, the longer we get to do the show. So there you go.
And we plan to do the show for a long, long time. And follow us at ysguys.com and subscribe to get our weekly email. That'll send you highlights from our show, and it's all free. And then if you look around there, all our past interviews are sitting right there. Danny Ainge, Murray Osmond, Jimmer Fredette, Ty Detmer, Kyle Van Noy, Mark Pope, Jay Hill, Dennis Pitta, Max Hall, Mark Wilson, Elaine Bradley, Austin Colley, Matt and Savannah Shaw, Amber and Amari Whiting, Gennaro Guilford, and a whole lot more. They're right there. It's like going into a donut shop in the morning when the baker has got them all out there, and then it's all kinds of colors and flavors, and you can just listen to whatever you want.
Yeah, and by the way, Amber and Amari Whiting, they were just on a couple weeks ago. They were awesome. They were great, and you just are scratching the surface with the guest list there. So I'm certain there's some that you missed. So go back and look in that archive, and you can bring up any of those. And hey, just if you want to, just stick your AirPods in and go out on your bike and ride and listen to Danny Ainge.
Exercise with the Wise Guys. That could be a whole summer campaign. Exercise with the Wise Guys. Shout out to Beaumont, Texas, already with Mike Z, just me from Beaumont, and we want you tonight as you get on our live stream, let us know where you're watching from, and we'll try to point it all out.
BYU Sports Attic is one of our guys that's always with us, and then Dr. Ketch as well. Earl Carr's joining us from Bountiful up in Davis County tonight. We had one last week because we know we always have Corey Yoshimura listening to us from Japan.
Yeah.
Wish we could talk to Corey today and find out about this
PGA
Live merger. He would be in the know on all of that since he's basically runs the PGA's Asian Tour division. But we always have Corey from Japan. And last week we had somebody from
Panama.
Yeah,
it was great.
Really cool.
Earl Carr is here from Bountiful. They're having a big storm up there that way tonight. So hang in there, Earl. And we're just getting started, so please let us know where you're listening, watching from as we launch into this big night with football news. BYU adds another 4-star linebacker. We'll take a look at the linebacker room.
Yeah, hey, Jordan Leslie, former BYU receiver, is live with us tonight. He's coming on real quick. We'll ask him for his advice for BYU's new crop of grad transfers who want to do what he did. I don't know if he's the very first.
Probably not the first,
but this era, you know, he graduated from UTEP. We're going to get into all of this and talk about a story, and came and had an immediate impact on BYU as a grad transfer in his 1 year here.
Jimmer wins the silver at the World Cup in the 3-on-3 competition, now setting his sight on gold at the Olympics. We'll talk about that.
Yeah, and didn't his last three just rattle out to win the thing?
Yeah, it was mostly in. And then it spun out.
Is that kind of like Mostly Dead on The Princess Bride? That's because he's not dead. He's just mostly dead.
Yeah, except it didn't go back in.
Yeah, it didn't go back in.
And they were dead because they got beat.
That's too bad.
But they got beat by a team that won it 6 straight years. And the U.S. just trying to figure this whole 3-on-3 out.
Yeah.
But Jimmer was the leading scorer in the tournament. Again, all that coming up a bit later on.
Jimmer was just Jimmering people. Yeah. So that's what he was doing.
It's international Jimmermania. I don't know if the world's ready for it. I'll be honest.
Paris Olympics, it's going to be big. And we're going to have some of our former guests in the Paris Olympics, right?
Yeah.
And Jimmer, including one of those. We have multiple guests that we've had on this last year that will follow in the Paris Olympics next summer.
Speaking of our guests, let's jump right into our visitor tonight. A grad transfer long before grad transfers were cool. He's only 31, but he's old school.
That's right.
And he provided a blueprint for today's crop of grad transfers to succeed at BYU. A pleasure to welcome former Cougar receiver Jordan Leslie to the Wise Guys, joining us live from Arizona, where he's owning his own dream at the Sports Academy. Jordan, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, in fact, Dave, you wrote a really nice article about Jordan this week in Deseret News.
It's Jordan Leslie Week.
I know you read the article because I saw you commented on it on Twitter, and so it's Jordan Leslie Week on the Wise Guys.
It was a great article for sure. I appreciate that, Dave.
You got it. You got it. You're a great story. You're the grandfather of BYU's grad student transfers. Even though you're 31, you're still the grandfather of them all. But one of the most impactful the program's ever had. What was the transition like to go from UTEP to BYU for your 1 year up here?
Honestly, coming into it, I thought it was going to be difficult. Coming to a new school, you're a senior, you've already kind of established yourself somewhere, and now you have to get into a room full of guys that have been with each other for a while and show them that you're good enough to be there. So I thought it was going to be difficult, but like I said in the article, from day one, the BYU players, Taysom Hill, Mitch Matthews, to name two, were very, very accepting. From the day I walked in, they showed me where everything was, meeting rooms. They invited me over to their house, came over to my house, took me around Provo, showed me all the good places to eat, where to hang out. So they made it real easy. Made it a real easy transition. They made it fun. BYU as a team, we were a really close-knit team. There wasn't too much bickering. It was a lot of competitive spirits, but had fun and knew once we got off the football field, we were all a family at the end.
There's several grad transfers. Biggest class of transfers, period, with this transfer portal thing. But in that big class of transfers, there's several grad transfers that are coming in. Keaton Slovis, Aiden Robbins, Keaton from Pitt, USC, then Pitt, then here. You got Aiden Robbins out of UNLV, Eddie Heckert out of Weber. What's going to be the biggest challenge for these guys as they try to integrate into this program this fall?
I would say the biggest thing is just understanding the system, and which I'm sure they're studying night and day to try to get this down. Luckily, they were able to come in the spring too, so that helps a lot. Understanding. There's really not too much of a challenge. BYU fans, make it easy for you because they love their BYU football. They're going to show you a lot of love. As long as you work hard, you're going to be a fan favorite. So that on that aspect, you're good. And then when it comes to the players, when I know from my time at BYU and just talking to other players that are in BYU currently, I don't think there'll be any problems. I think they'll come in, hit the ground running, and get ready for a great season.
Jordan Leslie graduated from UTEP in electrical engineering before coming to BYU on the Wise Guys tonight, live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and wiseguys.com. During your time with the Miners, caught 125 passes for 2,015 yards and 15 touchdowns. Why did you decide to leave once you had your degree and you had another year of eligibility, and why did you choose BYU?
So the reason why I left, it was a little bit of, it was a lot of things. Obviously, I had a little disagreement with one of the coaches on the coaching staff, and then just kind of the route we were going. The year before, I think I had like 977 yards, like 30 yards away from 1,000. We passed the ball a lot. And then the year after, it was very run heavy. A lot of my passes were screens and things like that. And so I just wanted somewhere where I thought could showcase my talent, give me a chance to play in the NFL. And when I decided that I wanted to transfer, I wanted to go somewhere where, one, I felt like the coaching staff had my best interests at mind, and two, somewhere where I felt like I would be welcome. So in my search, like I said, there wasn't a transfer portal. There wasn't people reaching out. It was just, hey, it's on you to do everything. So I talked to a couple coaches, but knowing that Coach Holliday was at BYU and it was somebody that I could trust, somebody that had been around me, knew my playing style, and knew what I was capable of, and I knew that he was going to push me to be the best player that I could be. It was a no-brainer to go to BYU.
Yeah. So
and then once I went on my visit and saw the fan base and saw it rocking at the basketball game and what they showed for just the recruits that were coming in, it was after that I was like, yeah, I'm sold.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, when you're talking about Guy Holliday, most of these guys that are transferring in don't have that, where the coach where they were is now going to be the coach where they're going. How much did that influence? Was that the game changer? Like, well, this is just so obvious because of it. And how did that help you integrate when you had Guy where you were and where you were going?
I would say, if we're breaking it down percentage, probably about 85, 90% was because of Coach Holliday. We had a great relationship. Like I said, he was my coach, so somebody I could trust. The other 10% was meeting with Bronco Mendenhall, talking to him and seeing his mindset, meeting the players and seeing kind of the game plan. And I would say another 2% of it was probably knowing that we were going to play UT the next year, and I wanted to get after them.
Shout out to Jonathan watching with us from Henderson, Nevada. Glenn from the Philippines up early.
Yeah, how about Glenn Lumens watching us in the Philippines? That's pretty awesome.
And they're all excited to hear more from you, Jordan. So this is your moment here on the Wise Guys. You played for two quarterbacks at BYU, Taysom Hill and Christian Stewart. Hill for the first 4.5 games. And then Stewart the rest of the way after Taysom got hurt against Utah State. You catch 55 passes for 779 yards, 6 touchdowns. You run for a touchdown. Was this as much fun as you had hoped it would be?
No, I mean, of course. Obviously, at the end of the day, we didn't accomplish the goal that was set out in front of us. We obviously wanted to be undefeated, be ranked, have a chance to play in a playoff. But it didn't end up. But as a whole, I enjoyed my time at BYU. Made plays. Was able to be around a great group of guys, got to go to a bowl game in Miami. There was obviously, just like with anything in life, you have times where, I wish I would have done this different. I wish I would have done this different. But as a whole, I know I left everything out on the field. I gave it everything I had at BYU, so I enjoyed my time. The fan base is amazing, and they've been amazing ever since I've left. I still get people running up to me and, hey, I remember when you were at BYU. I loved you there. So it's been an amazing time after football, and I'm glad that I made that decision.
It's our pleasure to have former BYU receiver Jordan Leslie on the Wise Guys tonight. One game that I know you don't wish went any different, because you already mentioned it. You mentioned that you were going to have UT on the schedule, University of Texas, the Longhorns. BYU 41, Texas 7. You have 7 receptions for 85 yards. The longest was a 27-yard circus catch that set up a touchdown. For a kid that grew up in Texas, and you played at UTEP, what did it mean to go beat the Longhorns in Austin? And by the way, Dave and I were there right on the sideline broadcasting and watching you. So what was that like?
It was amazing. It was a dream come true. Growing up from Texas, I went to UT's football camps. I remember busting my butt there. I remember dreaming my whole life, hey, I'm going to play in the Burnt Orange. I remember watching Vince Young win that national championship. I'm like, I'm going to be there one day. That's going to be me. And when recruiting came, I talked to some coaches, and they said they were interested, and I never heard back. And ever since that day, I was like, all right, well, wherever I go, I'm going to make sure that I get to play UT and I get to beat them. And recruiting, I thought I was going to go to Kansas, honestly. And something came up with that, so I ended up going to UTEP, and I didn't see them on the schedule. So I was a little heartbroken, but getting the chance to play them in Austin in front of a lot of family friends that came out, a lot of friends that were in college that go to UT, it was an amazing feeling. And put a butt whooping on them. That was the best part of it.
Hey, Linda's with us from Colorado. Andrew from Alaska. Richard's back with us from Panama. As the Wise Guys linking BYU, Cougar Nation around the world. So put us in your helmet running out of the locker room. It was 95 degrees that night, so it was a roaster. But you take the field in front of 85,000, I think it was, fans there at Memorial Stadium. Bevo's on the other end doing nothing. And it's your boyhood dream to play for the Longhorns, but you're running out with a BYU helmet on. They're probably booing you. I can't remember. I imagine they did. What was it like for you to take the field finally for a ball game there at Texas?
It was amazing. First thing, you step on the field, you just take it all in, because it's an environment. Obviously, it's an amazing environment. The stadium's packed. Fans are screaming left and right. I'm pretty sure we got booed at least. So that kind of gets your adrenaline going. And just like in any game, there's always nerves there. But once you get that first catch, it kind of changes everything. And I just told Taysom, hey, give me that first catch, and we're going to get rolling. And I think I caught like a slant. And then after that, all those nerves are gone. And now it's just back to playing the game. That's a kid's game I've been playing all my life.
Yeah, we were there, Jordan, right on the sideline where Taysom hurdled their guy before he went in. We were right in front of us. He hurdled the guy. And then I don't know how many years later, I was walking across that field. I was at a dinner that they were having in their boosters club. And one of their old All-American baseball players, we were walking across the field. I didn't even think anything of it. And he stopped. And he goes, you know what happened right here, don't you? And I go, what? He goes, this is right where Taysom Hill hurdled that dude. I'm like, wait a minute. You're a Texas guy. You remember that? He goes, everybody in Texas remembers that night. It's the worst night of our life. I mean, that kind of whooping doesn't happen ever in Austin. What was that like to just literally run them out of the stadium?
It was amazing. I think I had the same amount of catches as they had points. So it was great. We went into the locker room, and I obviously won't describe everything that happened in the locker room, but it was a wild scene. Obviously, Bronco got Gatorade poured on him. It was a big just full out mosh pit. Everybody was having fun. Everybody was excited. It was probably one of the best times I've had after a football game in my college career.
After the Taysom leap, the very next drive is the drive of your circus catch. I call it the Lynn Swan.
Yeah, it was a great
old school catch, which set up the touchdown run by Adam Heaney, and then the route was on. And you described that to me earlier in the week. I'm going to ask you again. You're supposed to run a post, right, a post fade, or what? Walk us through that play, and how in the world did you make that catch?
So I think the play name was Cop. So it's a corner post. So you kind of going vertical about 10 to 12 yards, break into the corner, trying to get that corner to bite it, and then go into the post. And so when I went to the post, I turned around and it looked like Taysom got hit. And so as the ball left his hand, it obviously didn't travel the distance that he was hoping it to. So I had to come back to the ball. When I came back, there was a corner obviously behind me. So he kind of ran and kind of knocked it out a little, and I just had the composure to keep it in. After seeing Taysom jump over somebody, I was like, man, I got to one-up you somehow. It wasn't as good as jumping over somebody, but I think I made a good play.
It was a tremendous play, and I still remember the oohs and ahs of disbelief in the stadium of there's no way he held on to that ball.
And they always talk about you want to have a receiver out there as a quarterback that even when they're covered, you go, well, I'm just going to throw it out there because that guy's going to make a play. And we want to take you now from Austin, which was a great experience for all of us. We were all there, and it was amazing. Now let's go to the coast, to Berkeley. BYU 42, Cal 35. This was a big play game for you. 5 receptions, 155 yards, and 2 touchdowns at Berkeley. And 83 yards and 38 yards on those 2 touchdowns. 83-yard touchdown. That's a big one. Take us back to Berkeley and what that game felt like for you.
Well, at the beginning of the year, I told Taysom, anytime you get a chance, throw it up. I'll make a play on it. And so going into Cal, I mean, Christian Stewart was another really good friend of mine on the team. And spent a lot of time together. And it was the last game of the season. I almost told him the same thing. Like, hey, man, you see me, just let it go. I'll make a play. And one of the I think the 83-yard touchdown was just a go. It was just a simple play call, goes on both sides. The corner pressed me, had no help over the top, and I knew if I could get him off the line and Christian Stewart, it was over. Or through it was over. And he had faith in me, let it go, and it was 83 yards later. And I think the next touchdown was busting coverage. I was just wide open in the middle of the field, and Christian saw me again.
Look, your 4 last receptions, 3 went to touchdowns at BYU. That's, if you want to be remembered, do that.
That's the way to do it.
For sure. Now, you were on a handful of NFL practice squads. Your dream always to get to the league, including the Browns. Cleveland activates you before the game against the Colts in 2017. How did you find out the news that you were going to make your NFL debut? What was that moment like?
So just to take it back a little. So honestly, training camp, before training camp, finishing the season before, I was actually going to go to Dallas, and I talked to the upper management, and they were like, hey, if you make plays in training camp, you'll be on this team. So I was like, hey, let me stick it out here. They've seen me. So we went out to training camp. I made plays. I think I was leading in touchdowns, receptions, and receiving yards, and I still got cut. And so I was heartbroken. So, I'm 2 to 3 weeks, I think, outside the league, and then I get a call, hey, we want to bring you back to a practice squad. And I was like, okay, well, hey, this is another opportunity. So that week I trained on the practice squad for the first Tuesday. And then they started telling me, like, hey, there might be a chance you could play this week. And so then that kind of took it up a notch. So I took all the first team reps. I took all the second team reps. I took the practice squad reps. I was running nonstop. But I was like, hey, if I get a shot to play, I'm going to be out there. And then Friday, they actually gave me the word that I would be playing. And
what did they call you?
My mom. I was I got to buy you a flight right now.
Do they call you? How do they tell a young guy is going to play for the first time?
So this one was my receiver coach, Al Saunders, which meant a lot coming from me because obviously, he was the OC for the greatest show on turf. And, he's been around the game for a long time. He's been one of my biggest supporters. And obviously upper management didn't think the best of me, so they let me go a couple of times, but he was always the one fighting for me. So he was one of the first people to tell me, him and his son, who were both big supporters. They told me, and, it's a feeling that you really can't even express. I mean, you worked your whole life to do this. You thought you've done enough to be able to be on the field, and you keep getting cut, and then to have someone tell you, hey, this is your chance. It was amazing.
In that game, Jordan, you make a sensational one-handed grab, which seems like it's a theme that we're talking about tonight, these one-handed grabs, on a 26-yard pass down to the 2-yard line, and it would become your only NFL reception. Take us back, and what memories do you have from that play?
That one was a go-to. There's another running theme of just give me a go and see what happens. But got a little jammed on the line. Was able to fake inside and get outside, and Deshaun threw me a great ball. I stuck my hand up there. I think the corner had my other hand. I was able to get one hand on it. And if you look at the film, I'm not even excited about the catch because I catch it and I'm like, we didn't score. And we were in 2-minute hustle or 2-minute drill. So I'm like, I got to hustle. So I'm trying to get the ball to the ref, and then they obviously called a timeout. And so then I finally got to like express my feelings and get excited. And it was an amazing feeling. It's something I'll never forget. I'll show my kids that the rest of my life. I show my players when they ask. That next week I ended up tearing my hamstring, so that next week hurt. But for that time, that day, it was amazing.
Yeah, I've seen it on YouTube.
Yes.
It's a phenomenal catch, but you made a ton of those, so it seemed right. After that injury, you get waived, and as is business in the NFL, that was it. It was practice squad, and then you retired from the game. How hard is it to stay in the NFL?
It's a tough business. It can be a little political. It can it's kind of who you know sometimes, and it's not always the best man wins. If you're undrafted, you got to be twice as good as the drafted player. I think after I tore my hamstring that next year in Denver, I led them in training camp and preseason and touchdowns, receiving yards, and receptions again, and I still got cut. And so once that happened, I was 2 years in a row. I was just like, maybe it's not for me. I went up to the CFO for a week, and it was just totally different to kind of what I was expecting from the NFL. And I just at that point, I just wanted to start my true dream, which was opening a sports facility and helping kids achieve their dream. And so once I made that decision, I'm one of the guys, if I'm all in, I'm all in. There's no one that's going to outwork me. But once I decide, hey, it's time to hang those cleats up, now I got to put my mindset to something else.
Let's talk about that, something else a little bit. You played football, basketball, you ran track at Tomball High School. So now you're training athletes for a living in Arizona. I know you're a fan of kids playing multiple sports. How important is it that they are well-rounded, and what advice do you give them as you're training as they're coming up through?
It's so important. I mean, so much what I learned from being a receiver was from basketball, boxing out and rebounding, the side-to-side lateral movements, everything. Playing defense on the basketball court helped me with my quickness, my agility. I would say so much that I achieved in this game was because I was a well-rounded athlete. And I told all my athletes, play every sport you can. The only way to get faster is by running more. The only way to jump higher is by jumping more. Get on that basketball court, get some rebounds, work on your explosion. I think right now it's getting to a point where some kids are getting burnt out so early because they're playing tackle football in the fall, they're playing tackle football in the spring, and then they get to summer or to March, April, and they're playing, or later in the spring, and they're playing 7-on-7. And I mean, we had one kid that broke his arm in the fall, broke his leg in the winter. It's tough to put a lot on such young kids playing year-round tackle football. So I always preach to the kids, get outside and play different sports and just be an athlete. Don't think and pigeonhole yourself into one sport or one position. Go out there and try it all. You never know what you'll like and what you'll be good at.
Couple more questions for Jordan Leslie tonight on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and ysguys.com. A lot of folks on the stream want us to ask, what are you doing right now? So tell us about this sports performance facility in the Mesa, Tempe area.
Yes, sir. So myself, and Coach Guy Holiday opened up a training facility of about 26,000 square feet. We have 2 turf fields. We have a full-time chiropractor, a part-time physical therapist, full-time strength coach. We have a speed coach who has a silver medal in the Olympics. We have soccer coaches that played professional in Brazil. We have another soccer coach that played at Washington. So when it comes to anything on the athletic side, we have somebody in here that specializes in that. And that's what we wanted to provide, specialized training. Obviously, me and Coach Holiday handle the position work when it comes to football. I handle the athletic training, the agility and plyometric trainings, anything a kid needs when it comes to their athletic ability. I even want to add some tutors in here to help them with their academics. We want to be an all-in-one sports performance facility for all the athletes. and even looking to get some scholarship programs for some kids that can't afford it.
That's good. What was the temperature in Arizona today? 100 and something?
Yeah, I think it got up to 99. So we didn't break triple digits, but I think Saturday we did.
So the genius of your operation is you've got football fields indoors with air conditioning in Arizona.
45 yards indoors. You can run all the routes you need to.
So, and tell us, what's the name of the performance facility? And before we get off, we're going to have you kind of give us a little bit of how people get in contact with you. But so people know, what's the name of the training facility in the program?
Of course. So the name is Own Your Dream Sports Academy, OYD Sports for short. But the reason why we named it that is because every day we want kids to go out there and own their dream, no matter what it is. They want to be a doctor, go out there and learn from other people that have been doctors. Go study something. All right. Whether you want to be a football player, go out there and work on your craft. At the end of the day, there's so many people in this world that want to do things or say they want to do things, but they don't go out there and do it. And so we want kids to come out here and own it. Go out there and do everything you can, give it everything you got, because that's one thing I credit so much of my success in the sport is my work ethic. I think that's the number one reason why Coach Holiday wanted me at BYU is because he knew that I was going to push every person that was in that receiving room. And that's my mindset. Anytime I get on a field or a court, you're going to have to outwork me to beat me.
We've put the links to your operation on our sites so folks can go there and get information on how they can get there and get trained.
Yep.
Now, our friends Ty and Max are down there. They should be sending you guys left and right.
Absolutely, yeah.
Coach Holiday actually just got done talking to Ty a few days ago, so I think he's going to come by, check out the facility, so maybe we'll take a little BYU pic and post that for the gram.
Oh, yeah.
So, hey, well, one of our followers, BYU Sports Addict, said, hey, Jordan, love your take. It's the work ethic that matters. You're absolutely right. And I go back to the very beginning of when we started to talk to Jordan tonight, and Dave mentioned that Jordan graduated in electrical engineering. And I've been thinking back, and I've been puzzling, and my puzzles are sore now. I can't think of another transfer that's come to BYU ever that's had an undergraduate degree in electrical engineering. That's no joke. That's a real major, Jordan. So that took some work to be able to juggle that while you were in school. How in the world do you juggle an electrical engineering degree and go out and have the performance you had on the field at UTEP? That's crazy.
It was definitely tough. It took a lot of hours studying, a lot of group study sessions. The main reason I went for it, I got to UTEP and they were telling me, the degrees, and I was like, I want to do engineering. And they were like, oh, we don't allow football players to do engineering. It's just too hard. And so my mindset right there, well, I'm doing it. So we're going to have to live with it. And they were like, okay, once your grades slip, we're taking you out of it. My grades never slipped, and I ended up accomplishing my goal. I ended up getting my senior project done in time and was able to transfer to BYU. So it was one thing I'll tell you is no matter what it is, push yourself. Push yourself to go out there and achieve your goals no matter what anybody says, because there's going to be a lot of doubters in this world.
We are watching the NBA Finals featuring Miami star Jimmy Butler, one of the greatest basketball players in the world. Years ago, you and your family brought Jimmy into your home and off the streets where he was living and bonded like brothers. What ways has that experience blessed both of your lives?
Well, I mean, obviously, from Jimmy's aspect, I think the biggest thing is both of us should push each other. No matter what it was, we could be walking to the store or walking down the street, we were going to race. If we were playing tic-tac-toe, it was going to come into a full-out brawl because both of us were so competitive in everything we did. And you can see it now. The way he kind of commands the team, the way he leads them. When it's crunch time, he's going to be the one to show up. And that's one thing I've been more than proud of, but something I expected from him. I know a lot of people are shocked, but that's the last thing I am is shocked of Jimmy performing in the crunch time or performing when, all the lights are on, because we train for those times. And I know of all people, he's outworking everybody in the league. And so when you outwork people, usually you're going to get rewarded.
A lot of people look at the guys, especially, the NBA, it seems like a collection of freak athletes. They're just so unbelievably athletic, and they discount how hard those guys work because it's a combination of just pure talent and work. Was there a point when you look back, Jordan, when you think about Jimmy Butler, where you go, yeah, there was a point I knew this guy was going to be a big-time NBA star? Do you go all the way back, or is it more recently that you thought that for him?
I mean, obviously when we were kids, we kept telling each other like, "Hey, I'm gonna make it to the NFL. You're gonna make it to the NBA." That was just our mindset. Every time we did anything, that's what we told each other. We knew it was gonna happen. And I have all our basketball records at our high school, so I would tell them all the time, "Hey, you know what? I might make it to the NBA and NFL." But I would say the biggest thing that just kind of I knew was his college prep work. Once he finished college, I know I don't think he was projected in the first round. And so his mindset was, hey, I want you to put me, he told his agent, put me in every workout with every top prospect there is, because I want to lock them down. And I want to show them that I'm this guy. And I knew once he was going to get an opportunity to go against all the top prospects, that hard work that he put in, he was going to show them that he was a guy. And I knew once he got drafted, he wasn't getting many minutes that freshman year. And I knew all he was going to do was keep working. And so much of this is once you get an opportunity. And he was able to get that opportunity, and he went out there and made the most of it, and he hasn't stopped making the most of it.
Game 3 tomorrow night in Miami between the Heat and the Nuggets. All right, I know we've got you in between camp sessions, so let's wrap up with 5 quick questions. We ask all of our guests these questions, and we remember them, and we write them down for all of history.
That's right.
So we're going to hold you accountable to them.
Yep.
You ready?
So we're going to start with this. And these just, whatever comes to the top of your head, you just think quick so we get to know you better. Your favorite sports movie?
Ooh, Coach Carter.
Coach
Remember the
Carter.
Titans, number 2, though.
I remember the Titans, too. Yeah, remember the Titans is we hear that one a lot. I think we had one other Coach Carter. So those are both those are awesome.
I love that mindset in that movie and how hard he pushed him. That's Coach Holiday right there for you. He's going to grind you into the ground and make you the best player.
There you go. Your favorite singer or band?
Ooh, rapper count, J. Cole would be my favorite rapper.
There you go.
Okay. Favorite breakfast cereal?
Ooh. Oh, cinnamon toast crunch.
Cinnamon toast.
You know what?
Crunch.
That may be our most popular one.
I think so.
I think it is. That's really, really popular.
It's really good.
I like Cinnamon Life, which is similar, but not quite as sugary.
Yeah.
So
I need the sugar.
we respect all.
Don't listen to that.
We respect
We'll
Jordan.
cut
Just so
that
you know,
out.
we respect all sugar cereals.
Yeah.
We absolutely do. So
We're no respecter of.
yeah, when somebody comes in here, like when Kyle Van Noy comes in here and says they feed their children protein shakes,
we shut
for
it down
breakfast,
right
we're
then.
like, Kyle, come
We got to
on.
cut that out.
Yeah, exactly. So your favorite BYU moment, and it doesn't have to be on the football field. It could be anything that happened at BYU that stands out to you. Like, yeah, that's my favorite thing at BYU.
Favorite moment is going to be the UT locker room just after the game. Obviously, just being an amazing moment. But one of my other favorite moments that doesn't get talked about enough is the BYU challenge we did, where we had to swim a mile, bike 6 miles, and then hike like 6.5 miles. Each person had to do it. It was rough, but when you finish, you just felt fulfilled. And it was probably the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, but it showed me how far I could push my body.
The BYU challenge.
Yeah, there were at one time I think Bronco called the Eco Challenge. We used to go support the guys when they were doing it, and I would just think, man, you got to be mentally tough. And it was really about being mentally tough because you couldn't go train for it. You just had to go do it. And I'm like, man, this is a bunch of tough dudes. So I remember it well.
The BYU challenge.
Yeah. How about the favorite piece of advice that anybody has ever given you that you would pass along to others?
Ooh, there's always someone out there outworking you. So keep working. Honestly, that's what I pictured in my mind anytime I worked out. If I told myself I was going to go run 10 stadiums and I got to 8, I would picture someone else out there outworking me. And that was my mindset. If someone out there could do more than me, I got to up it up. And I got to pick up my game and go out there and beat that person, because there's always going to be somebody that's more gifted than you. But my demeanor was, hey, if I'm the hardest worker, I'll be able to catch them. So that would be my biggest thing.
Hey, which home game are you coming up to this fall?
Ooh, I'm gonna have to double check the schedule. We're trying to get everything squared away with here. I'm getting married next year, so I'm trying to get everything in place so that next year I can get married and take 2 weeks off.
There you go.
Listen, when you let us know if you're coming up, and we'd love to have you pop on game day with us during our 2-hour pregame show on BYU TV. So we'd love to have you in as a guest, but just let us know. Give us some heads up. Don't pop in like 5 minutes before the show.
Hey, I'm here.
A couple weeks out, season out, say, hey, I'll be there for the
Oklahoma game,
Iowa State game, or whatever, and let us know, and then we'll work that out. We'd love to have you on. We're so proud of how you represent the Y and your experience up here. We're grateful that it was good and that it's helped propel you to to your own business down there in Arizona. Please say hi to Coach Holiday for us, and we'll see you soon.
Yeah, and we're going to remind everybody too, Jordan, that they can read all about you in the Deseret News at Deseret.com. Dave wrote a beautiful article about Jordan this week, so we're going to tell everybody to get to DeseretNews.com or Deseret.com and read that great article on Jordan.
Everyone definitely go read that article. They did a great job, and I'll tell Coach Holiday hi. He's actually yelling at somebody right now. So
there you go.
Same old guy.
Wouldn't be right if he wasn't.
OYDsports.com for anybody that's interested and wants to just check it out. OYDsports.com. We're here to help anybody. We need to get some more BYU Cougar fans in here.
Yeah, and what we need you to do is send us some 6'6" guys that run the 40 and
we need
3.
some 6'6" tight ends and a couple of 6'7" offensive tackles, and then send us a bunch of skill guys too.
Yeah, so send them up, would
We
you?
got some great athletes, and we're adding some more. So
Fantastic.
I got y'all.
Thanks so much for joining us, Jordan. We appreciate it, and we're excited about all the things you got going.
Of course. Thank you all again for having me.
The great Jordan Leslie. Nice to see that number 9 up there on the wall behind him. And, you know, when you think about, and we talked about it before the interview, grad transfers and the challenge they have, and he pointed out in this article and again tonight, that you walk in, you want to be a starter, you walk into the room and no one knows a thing about you. And it can rub guys wrong, and all of a sudden it can cause a ripple in the receiver room. But Guy Holiday said in that article that he needed Jordan to come help change the culture, wanted guys to play tougher.
Yeah.
And he knew that he had that. And Mitch Matthews and Christian Stewart all said the same kind of things, that he brought that. Christian Stewart, who threw for a bazillion yards, I talked to him the other night, and he said that they had no expectations for Jordan as a receiver coming from UTEP. Big whoop.
Yeah, exactly.
But then when he showed up and they saw him run routes and physically catch the ball, and it was smart, and all of a sudden they go, we got somebody. And he delivered all season.
Well, and I think whenever you're a transfer, whether you're transferring in as a sophomore, BYU's got several of those with 3 years left of eligibility. And we mentioned the grad transfers. I think grad transfer number 1 is Keaton Slovis, because he's got to be in a leadership role at that quarterback position. But Jordan Leslie, and you mentioned in your article, like, he kind of set the tone for how you do it. You come in, and the first thing you do is you establish that you're there to work, that you've got the work ethic, and that nobody's going to outwork you. You're going to set the tone. And, you know, everything we're hearing about these grad transfers that come in, Keaton Slovis and Aiden Robbins and Eddie Heckard, is exactly that. Man, these guys came in, they didn't act like anybody had to give them anything, and they just started working like crazy and setting the tone in each of their respected position groups and rooms. That's how you do it. And Jordan set that in place. He set the blueprint for that's what you do. And I think probably 3 days in, and you can tell when you talk to Jordan that this is a guy that's not going to get outworked, that he just set the tone right away. And it's really easy to accept somebody that comes in and their mentality is, I don't expect you to give me anything. I will work for everything I get here. And pretty soon you win everybody over. That's what Jordan did, and then he was really productive on the field. And that's hopefully what Keaton Slovis and Aiden Robbins and Eddie Heckard and all these guys do.
And we watched all those guys in spring ball. Robbins was out because of he had surgery on his thumb, but he was still at practice. And we didn't get the sense from any of those guys that the prima donnas were here, but that it was just going to be, we're going to work our way in. We think we're the best, but we're going to prove it to you on the practice field. And then if that's the case, everyone wants the best in the game.
That's right. And you know what? Then it doesn't, you know, there are some politics that are played. You know, Jordan mentioned sometimes you got to be in the right place at the right time, and you're at a team where your position coach isn't the guy that wanted to draft you or sign you, and you're working up against that. Hey, Kyle Van Noy told us in his first stint with Detroit, his position coach didn't really want him. And then when he got to New England, he was in a position where the coach loved him. And so there are some politics that are played, but with your teammates, you want to squelch any thought that you're getting favoritism. And I know Jordan, when he's coming in, guys are going, oh, man, Guy Holiday was his coach at UTEP. And now he's his coach here. Oh, he's going to get every advantage. And you know what? Again, 3 days into it, everybody's going, oh, no. This has nothing to do with Guy Holiday. This guy can just flat out play, and look how hard he's working. And so you get all that out of everybody's mind, and then they want you on the field. They want you on the field.
It adds to the drama of like the Sam Houston opener. Is Aiden Robbins going to take it over right tackle and go 70 yards? And we can see his speed and power and all that. He just might. But you got to watch to find out. And that's the intrigue of these guys. Can Keaton Slovis really run this offense, stay healthy, and get the ball to the playmakers? If he does, BYU's going to score a lot of points this year and win a lot of games. And therein lies the drama of some of these grad transfers who we know were good where they were. Now they are here. Is Eddie Heckard a lockdown corner? And if so, what does that mean for the rest of the defense?
Can you play a bunch of man and blitz like crazy because you got these transfer corners that are going to play great? And you have some dudes coming back too. I feel like the transfer portal, I think BYU did really well. In fact, you and I were talking earlier today when we were together for lunch about the fact that BYU, in all of the kind of rating services of how people fared in the transfer portal, has been consistently in top 20 in the country for their gains in the transfer portal versus losses. And I would agree with that. I think BYU is going to be much better than people think, because I do think guys like Keaton Slovis and Aiden Robbins and Eddie Heckard are going to have a major impact for BYU this fall.
Shout out to Mike in San Antonio. I served my mission in San Antonio many moons ago. Mike is watching. The coolest thing about San Antonio, and I saw this when I landed, and it could have been a foreign country. I'd never been there before, so it was foreign to me, was on all the tall buildings. They got flags flying on the top of them. And the Texas flag is the same size, at the same height, if not higher than the United States flag. It's the only state in the country where that's allowed.
Because Texas thinks they're their own country still, don't they?
They do.
Everything's bigger in Texas.
I had my first fajita in San Antonio. So anyway, Mike, thank you for watching the Wise Guys.
San Antonio, that whole Riverwalk area of San Antonio is really cool.
Hey, how about this guest lineup for the rest of the month? Fesi Sataki, the receivers coach, will be here next week. We're going to break down all the guys, especially the new ones that he's brought in. Harvey Unga on June 20th. Sherry Dew, author, executive VP of Deseret Management Corporation, the CEO of Deseret Book, big-time BYU fan. She's going to be here on June 27th. We're also working on Athletic Director Tom Holmoe. This will be the show before the official BYU to the Big 12 celebration on July 1st. So we got we got who you want.
And we got some fun stuff coming for you on July 1st as well. So that we'll announce later on.
Let's dive into some football, shall we?
Yeah.
And by the way, our roll call is going to continue tonight. So if you want us to mention you and where you're watching us or listening, just let us know in the feed there in the live stream, and we'll try to get to everybody, or at least a lot of folks. So thank you.
Yeah, and as we get into football, we had Jordan come in. We hadn't really gotten in. We talked about the schedule, the start to the schedule. We talked about this last week, but
remember they weren't announced.
That's right. And so now we know where these games are going to be, meaning what time they're going to be and what channel you can find them on. So should we go through that?
Yeah, let's do it. So these are the first four that have been announced, and the Kansas game was skipped over. We're waiting on the TV details for that one. But just so we're calendaring, and we can talk about this because it's exciting now that we have a date, a time, and a station. It just makes it all the more real.
Yeah, so we start with Sam Houston. That game at BYU in the opener in the Big 12 era. First game in the Big 12 era. Saturday, September 2nd. That'll be at 8:15 Mountain Time. It's going to be on Fox Sports 1. That actually surprised me.
Yeah.
I thought Sam Houston might be an ESPN Plus game.
Right.
So, no. So, it's going to be on National Network, Fox Sports 1. And we'll remind you that BYU Sports Nation Game Day starts at 6 p.m. that night. We're going to have a 2-hour pregame show for every BYU game for you live on BYU TV this year.
And it's going to be super cool because, we're in the Big 12 now. We've got a lot of opponents to explore.
Right.
A lot of folks to get to know. And we also will invite their fan bases to check it out as well. So leading up to the game, their team is in too, and they don't have a 2-hour pregame show.
Right.
So we have a chance to do a lot.
We're going to dedicate some time and resources every week.
Can you have a jet? Can we have a jet fly over for an 8:15 start? I think the Utah game was.
We need to call Clark
at 8:15. We need to call our.
Should we call Clark on the air?
Remember, we kind of got in trouble when we announced the Jets last time. Yeah. So we'll have to be careful about that. But 8:15, 8 o'clock you can fly jets over. I think that's dusk. But the following week, Southern Utah at BYU, that's definitely a jet Saturday if you're looking at just times.
For sure.
At 1 o'clock in the afternoon, that's old school. That's when you played all your games. And this one's on ESPN Plus, and BYU Game Day starting at 11 a.m. Mountain Time on BYU TV. That's Saturday, September 9th. And then we go to the game where a lot of folks think this is going to be where we find out what we really have.
I think they're going to win this game.
I do too.
I think they're going to go on the road and win at Arkansas on Saturday, September 16th. It's at 5:30 p.m. Mountain Time. So
7:30 prime time.
7:30 prime time. This is on ESPN2.
Yeah.
So it's really two motherships at ESPN. It's ESPN and ESPN2 where they have the big viewership. Game day will start at 3:30 Mountain Time on BYU TV. And every pundit that I've looked at them breaking down the schedule has them losing that game on the road at Arkansas. I just don't think that's going to be the case. I think they start 3-0.
I think they have a great shot at doing that. You think back to last year, Arkansas put up a bazillion yards and a bunch of points. Had BYU limited the turnovers, it would have been whoever had the ball last, right? It wasn't a great defensive day for either squad. Hall, with his banged-up shoulder, threw for a couple of miles. Puka Nacua had a big game. But BYU went through a string of 3 turnovers. Arkansas turned into points.
Right.
And you lose by, I think it was 20. You lose by the 3 turnovers. You eliminate those, and now you're in a shootout. And you know what? In a shootout, you got a 50-50 shot.
Yeah, in big games, you got to play clean, and you have to execute. So, hey, we've been shouting out to people. I just want to say to Web Surfer 7787, he says he's driving home and he's watching this on Twitch. How do you watch while you're driving?
Let's hope you're in the passenger seat.
Yeah.
Spencer, by the way, from Laredo, Texas, is watching. I've had lunch in Laredo, right there on the border.
Yeah.
Spencer, thank you. Good to have you here.
Do you think Web Server 7787 has one of those magnet things where you put it right in the middle of your steering wheel and you can watch and drive at the same time?
Whatever it is, I hope it keeps him in his lane.
What we're going to say is, Web Surfer, be safe out there. Be safe out there.
That's great. Boy, we're all over the world tonight. It's fantastic.
That's right. It's really cool.
Cincinnati was also another game that was announced on television. That's going to be Friday night. That's General Conference weekend, September 29th, 8:15. Again, that's a perfect time of day.
Great. Time of year. Yeah.
For that time of year. And it's on the mothership, ESPN.
That's right. And, of course, game day is going to start at 6 o'clock Mountain on BYU TV. That'll be a great night. And, BYU has some history with Cincinnati. And not in the Big 12. Back a couple years ago, they had a home and home with Cincinnati. So there's a little bit of history there. And it's 2 upstart new programs. Cincinnati's had a lot of success in recent years. Been right up there in the top 10, been in the, playoff. And so it's 2 teams coming into this game with a chip on their shoulder going, who's the best addition to the Big 12? Is it Cincinnati or is it BYU? That's going to be the argument. I think Central Florida would say, wait a minute. We won an unofficial national championship a few years ago because they didn't put us in the playoff when we were undefeated. But I think really coming in, everybody's asking, who's going to be competitive faster, Cincinnati or BYU? So that's a big game.
Live post-game shows will follow every game on BYU TV. So the 2-hour pregame and the post-game show. And the post-game show usually goes for as long as we feel like, which is good. After big wins, it seems like half the team comes out and does interviews with us. But it's fan access before and after. And that's going to continue and be bigger and better as we move into the Big 12. An interesting note, on a lot of these games, and it'll affect travel, especially for folks who drive in from California and Arizona, Idaho, and like to make plans. Plans are going to have to be pretty loose in the Big 12. So their TV times and broadcast info could be announced anywhere between 6 and 12 days out. And I think that's going to be the norm. So you might not know what time Oklahoma is until Sunday before the Oklahoma game.
And the TV partners, they paid a lot of money for this package. Yormark did a tremendous job in negotiating this package, and you see what it's done. He was so ahead of the curve that now the Pac-12 and the ACC, they're just having a hard time even coming close to what the Big 12 was able to secure. But part of that was the flexibility that Mark negotiated in the contract. He's like, listen, we're going to allow you, our network partners, to pick games on shorter notice so that you can have the best games on your network on any given week. What they don't want is the networks, they don't want to have TCU be a national title contender but picked in the middle of the pack in the league before the season and not have them in primetime. If TCU's on a run again and they're 10-0, they want to be able to pick them the next week and the week after because it's of national interest. And so Mark recognized that. I'm certain he got more money by being flexible.
Yeah.
But for the fans, we're going to have to be flexible too.
All right. Now, Spencer, by the way, is saying that he's going to be at the TCU game.
There you go, Spencer McMillan.
From driving up from Laredo to
says they're going to make the stadium blue and not purple. That happened in the old days. And Dr. Ketch asks, he says, hey, guys, I'm curious. Are you going to try to do some interviews and stuff with other teams in the Big 12? Seems like a chance to spread the good BYU word in lots of places. We're so happy to have these amazing foes and friends. And the answer to that is absolutely. And we talked about that a little bit. We'll do feature pieces on the opponent. We'll interview folks from the opposing school, especially at home games. We can bring them on set. So the plan is absolutely.
And on this show.
We're going to expose BYU's fans to the rest of the Big 12, and we're going to expose the rest of the Big 12's fans to how we do it at BYU. And we'll have them on game day shows. We're going to have them on Wise Guys. We'll bring guests in from around the Big 12. Mm-hmm. Hey, there's some method to the madness. When you look at these walls behind us with all the Big 12 logos up there, this show is going to expand and bring all of you out there a lot more around the Big 12 and allow you guys to know more about the competition in the league and the teams that they'll be facing.
Hey, keep those locations coming. It's fun to see Cougar Nation checking this out. And, of course, our podcast will be up tomorrow and available for everybody. Linebacker Harrison Taggart announced on social media that he's transferring from Oregon to BYU, 6'2", 216 pounds. He'll have 4 years of eligibility. A four-star linebacker coming out of Corner Canyon High School. BYU wasn't on the list when he came out. Played in 3 games, just a few plays last year with the Ducks. So what does Harrison Taggart bring to the linebacker room?
He's the linebacker with great range. So he's the kind of guy that if you're playing an aggressive defense and you need a guy that can be physical and play downhill, but also can peel off and pick up a running back out of the backfield or a slot receiver and run with him, this is what you get in Harrison Taggart, a really athletic, very skilled backer. And that's why he was a 4-star guy coming out. He was one of the top recruits in the state of Utah, not just one of the top backers, one of the top overall recruits, period, coming out of the state of Utah. And signs with Oregon, who always signs 4-star guys across the board. So this is a really nice addition. And it's not like he wasn't having some impact. He played as a freshman at Oregon.
It'll be interesting. 216. It seems like Justin Enna will want to put a few pounds on him.
Yeah, he'll 216 is fine for a youngin', And you think about it, the Kafusis, the Cousins, they're a little light right now too, but they're going to grow into those positions. And I won't be surprised if Taggart's not 220 to 225 by the season, and that's plenty to play on the outside.
So in the linebacker room right now, you got Taggart, you have Ben Bywater, Max Tooley, A.J. Vongpachang, Isaiah Glasker, Ace Kafusi, Chaz Ayu. Am I missing anybody?
That's a pretty star-studded group right there that you're talking about.
And if Chaz can be healthy, which he's struggled with,
and one that you didn't mention that's moved down to linebacker from safety is Hanneman.
Right.
So and he'll have a big impact because he's a very a football player with a lot of instincts that really plays to the football and runs the ball really, really well. He's put on some weight, and he'll be in that linebacker room as well.
So now the linebacker room is too deep. Remember when the summer started, there was no Vongpachang, there was no Taggart, there was Bywater and Tooley, Glasker with potential, and then it was, okay, got to find some guys.
Right.
Well, they found some guys, and these are guys that come in with experience. Vongpachang, a grad student, grad transfer, right?
Yeah.
So he's leading tackler
over
for
100
Utah
tackles,
State.
like their best defender.
And then Taggart with potential too. So suddenly you can, what you can do? You can spell guys.
Yeah.
And not have a drop off. Bywater.
And you want to be able to do that and not have a drop off. And it's depth is really important when you're playing 10 straight P5 games. You got to have it.
We should mention Harrison's sister, Madeline, is also transferring from Oregon and will compete with BYU's track and field in sprints and hurdles. And track and field's already a top 20 program. They just got better with Madeline Taggart coming in. Earlier today, and this is the time of year when all this preseason stuff pops up, and Lindy's put out their all Big 12 honors for preseason, and they were much kinder to the Cougars than that. Who was it? Athlon last week.
They had them worst in the league. They had them finishing last,
and not a lot of players finishing like first, second team, but here they come right out of the gate with a first teamer with the offensive line.
Yeah, and by the way, they picked them to finish 10th, ahead of Iowa State, Houston, Cincinnati, and West Virginia. So that's not too.
You know what? And when they say 10th, I had to go, what 10th? And then I go, okay, wait, there's 14
yeah,
teams.
because Oklahoma and Texas are still in the league.
Yeah, and there's 10th. 10th is, we think they'll do better than 10th. But when you look at Iowa State, Houston, Cincinnati, West Virginia, they also think they're going to do better than 10th. It's going to be a very competitive group.
So they obviously have Central Florida ahead of them.
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to happen.
No. And, and I wouldn't, when BYU and Baylor last played, BYU looked pretty good against Baylor.
And I won't be surprised if BYU's more in the middle of that league this next year. Kingsley, as you mentioned, first team, also listed at number 2 as the top 10 NFL talent.
How about that? And the Big 12, they list their top 10 NFL guys, and Kingsley's number 2.
Well, there's all kinds of talk about him being a first-round draft pick, and he's
that would be the third straight lineman.
Conversations that I've had with Aaron Roderick around Kingsley, he just can't say enough. He says he just. We talked about with Jordan Leslie, there's some freaks in the NBA, like just freakish athletes, right? Kingsley's a freakish athlete. Like he's, even amongst NFL guys, his size and his strength combined with a kind of athleticism and speed, he runs around like a little guy, and he's huge, and he's strong, and he's powerful. So the potential for Kingsley is just off the charts. If he keeps working the way he can work, and keeps getting better, he has a chance to be a starting left tackle in the National Football League for a long, long time. And
Aiden Robbins knows he can run behind the mountain of a man that Kingsley is. And Robbins is 6'2", 6'3", 230. He's a mountain of a man himself.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
And
absolutely.
That just bodes well. And also, I think it's interesting. We talk about how can BYU compete in the NIL world, in the transfer portal world. They can compete by having a portal to the NFL.
Right.
They
That's
have
the most
competitive
important thing.
NIL, but the transfer portal to the NFL is number 1. And Kingsley would be the third straight offensive lineman to go into the NFL. Never mind the third straight quarterback if Slovis gets in, or the third straight running back if or close to it if Robbins, and Robbins still has a couple of years to play. But BYU's putting guys in the NFL over and over and over, and that is what will make them competitive in the Big 12.
That's guys want to know that's the pathway in.
Yeah.
And they're not just in the league. BYU's group of guys in the league are very visible, high-level players. Brady Christensen starts. We talk about offensive linemen.
And Blake Freeland right now is practicing with the starting unit because the guy in front of him is hurt.
And Blake has the chance to be a star in that league.
And the Colts.
Because he's also a freakish, long, and athletic guy. Kingsley has a chance to be a star. You start doing that and producing NFL talent, especially at left tackle, right? That's the highest paid position on the offensive line. We haven't had a bunch of first-round draft pick tackles since the John Tate days, right?
Yeah.
So it'd be pretty fun.
If when you have an NFL portal, you can compete. All right, on the second team, all Big 12 for Lindy's. Speaking of Aiden Robbins, he's right there. So second team running back in the Big 12 is BYU's guy. Connor Pay, the center, who could also go to the NFL after this season, second team. And then you get onto the third team, we see Tyler Batty at defensive end.
Right. And then you've got Eddie Heckert as a third-team DB. That's respect. He transfers from an FCS school, but has enough on film over these years and is highly regarded enough that he's third-team all-conference as a transfer from an FCS school. And then Ryan Rico, the punter, is third-team.
Shout out to Rico.
Rico's an NFL leg.
Yeah.
Like, that's another guy that could be in the NFL.
He's not in the national stats because he doesn't punt enough.
Well, all the guys on this preseason list are all NFL potential guys.
Yeah.
They stay healthy and continue to get better. And I would say, when you're wondering about how's BYU going to be on offense, and you look and you go, well, Kingsley's maybe the second best player in the league in terms of NFL draft prospects, right, at left tackle. Connor Pay's an NFL guy at center. Eddie Ean is a potential NFL guy at the other tackle. Paul Miley, who transferred down from Utah, is a 3-year starter at Utah, a potential NFL guy. BYU's got a whole offensive line full of potential NFL guys. That's when they're good.
That's when you can get a yard when you need
When
a
it's
yard.
3rd and 1, and you put Aiden Robbins behind that group,
Get a yard.
you should be able to move the chains. That's what I'm saying. So
BYU Sports Addict was asking about NIL deals and how BYU's doing it. Go to wiseguys.com, and look up the Mark Comer interview from the collective.
right.
And watch that interview. That'll answer your question.
Yeah.
And we had Mark for about 40 minutes explaining how it works. And so do that. And then if you're still wondering, next week we'll answer that question.
And they are selling a lot of things that we're talking about. They're also selling long-term connections and networking and helping these guys start businesses. And what they're trying to do is say, don't just go to Tennessee because they're going to pay you $200,000, which they may, even if they're going to do that. BYU may not pay you $200,000, but BYU is going to show you how to make a living for the rest of your life, and they're going to network you for the rest of your life. And that's what they're selling to these kids. They're going to give them mentoring programs and help them start businesses and do all of that. To me, you sell that to parents. And we just talked to Gennaro Guilford about that, because he weighed in on that a little bit in our interview with Gennaro last week as well.
Yeah.
So you could also go listen to the Gennaro interview about what angle he's taking in recruiting the parents of these kids. And he talks about that a little bit as well back on our archives.
With the TV times out, the bowls were announced, the dates for the bowl games. And so here's the Big 12 bowl tie-ins. Now that we know what day they're going to be and who they're going to be against as far as conferences go. And then we're going to talk about money here in a minute.
Yeah.
Money rules the day if you're a golfer and also if you're a member of a conference like the Big 12.
That's right.
It's not so much the Pac-12 right now, but it's the money leagues, and we'll talk about that. But let's roll down the list for Big 12 bowl games. Of course, champion goes to the New Year's Six.
Right.
Might go to the college football playoff, and then the runner-up could go to the New
Right,
Year's
because
Six.
last year TCU was the champ, and they were in the national championship.
game.
They were in the Final Four, and then made it into the championship game and lost because everybody loses in that game to Georgia.
Yeah, they were just destroyed. Alamo Bowl is going to be against the Pac-12 on December 28th in San Antonio.
And I'm disappointed to say that the Cheez-It Bowl, which was one of my favorites.
I knew you would be.
Well, because they let you stay at that Cheez-It room at the hotel there.
Yeah.
That is no longer the Cheez-It Bowl. It is now the Pop-Tarts Bowl.
And see, I like the Pop-Tarts Bowl.
So it's the Pop-Tarts Bowl. It's on December 28th and is against the ACC.
So the ACC, who's in the ACC? Clemson,
Florida
North
State.
Carolina, Florida State.
Yep.
The Texas Bowl is against the Southeastern Conference. That's December 27th. Is that in the Cotton Bowl? The Texas Bowl? The Alamo Bowl is in San Antonio.
Or is
Texas
it
Bowl?
SMU's new stadium?
It could be that, or it could be in Jerry Jones. It could be in Cowboy Stadium.
I can't remember which stadium that is. There's a
We'll
bunch of
figure
great
that out.
stadiums down in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. The Liberty Bowl against the SEC is on December 29th, and that has a bowl tie-in as well.
The Guaranteed Rate is against the Big Ten. That's on December 26th.
The Independence Bowl, I know people are going to be like, no, we don't want to go back to Shreveport, but the Independence Bowl is December 16th, and now that's two P5s because it's against the Pac-12 on December 16th.
And then the Armed Forces and the First Responders, those are secondary bowls. Those are bowls where if the current leagues can't fill, that the Big 12 has an option to send a team there. Armed Forces Bowl, December 23rd. First Responder is December 26th. The bowls BYU wants to be in, one, they want to just be bowl eligible. We've already established that. That's the goal going into this first year. But if you can get up to the Liberty, Texas, Pop-Tarts, not only are you playing a really good opponent, you're getting some serious money.
Yeah, and it's all P5 versus P5. It's Big 12 versus the Pac-12, the Big 10, the SEC, the ACC. So that's kind of fun stuff. And by the way, Spencer McMillan says Pop-Tarts are greater than Cheez-Its.
You know what? I think he's probably right. I don't like the Cheez-It.
I don't know about that. I'm not quite sure.
And your fingers are all orange. You might as well be eating Cheetos.
Yeah, that goes right, like the argument not an argument, but discussion last week, Ginger or Marianne, and now we're like
Cheez-Its
Pop-Tarts or
Pop-Tarts.
Cheez-Its. All the classic arguments are coming up on this show.
Hey, Commissioner Brett Yormark with the Big 12 announced that the league's going to distribute a record $440 million to its membership. That's about $44 million per school. How much does BYU get of that? Nothing. That's not we're not in there yet.
Yeah, not yet.
BYU's going to get, over the next 2 years, in each of the next 2 years, close to $20 million in each of them. And then they get a full share once the new media deal kicks in the fall of 2025. And when that kicks in, the Big 12 believes that number is going to approach about $50 million annually for the members of the league. $50 million. When you're operating on a budget of, say, $12 million maybe from ESPN, you're going to go from 12 to 50
right
annually. That's more money than they talked about previously, and it makes you wonder over there at the Pac-12 when they're trying to just get a TV deal together. It's going to be nowhere near $50 million.
Yeah, and interestingly, at the Big 12 meetings on Friday, Yormark announced that, hey, the conference does have an expansion plan. So to quote him, he said, "We have an appetite to be a national conference," meaning, hey, we want to go to the West Coast. We'll go back to the East Coast. This can be a national conference. And, there's been all these rumors about UConn possibly coming into the league. There's been Arizona and Colorado talk a lot this week. There's been San Diego State talk. There's even been some Gonzaga basketball-only talk.
Yeah.
And he didn't deny any of that.
No, and Brett McMurphy reported today that UConn has the approval of the Big 12 basketball coaches, which would include Mark Pope, if he's talked to all of them, that the basketball coaches have said, yeah, we do want UConn. And UConn would come in as a full, they have a football team. It's not very good,
right,
but they have a football team. So they'd come in with all sports. They're in so much debt right now in their own world. This would obviously be like, oh, please, this would be awesome for us. But they got an exit fee they'd have to pay to get out of the Big East. So they got some hurdles. But the report late today was McMurphy saying, hey, the Big 12 coaches say, yeah, bring UConn in.
Yeah, well, elite basketball program, right?
Yeah.
One of the top 3 in the country. So
something's going to shake down. I still think Colorado's going to be in the Big 12.
Yep.
And I think Arizona's going to join them. And I do not think Utah is going to get to the Big 12.
Do you think San Diego State's going to be in the Big 12?
I have a feeling that probably when it all shakes out, if they go to 4, I think San Diego State will be one of them. Now everyone's going, no, we've only heard them going to the Pac-12. No, but you and I have heard them going to the Big 12.
Right. And I love San Diego State because I think they've been a good partner in leagues in the past and even through independence for BYU. And they've been a willing team to schedule them. They've got a solid football program. They've been in the top 20 multiple times over the last 4 or 5 years, and their basketball program is a top 10 program.
And we have a relationship with them. Their fans pop off from time to time, but that's what rivals do.
That's right.
We have a relationship with San Diego State that is healthy and fun, and they're good. Yeah, they're not great in football, but you know what? Backside of the Big 12, they fit right in.
Yeah.
Not everyone's great in football.
Right. They're not Oklahoma or Texas, but
No.
they're as good as the middle of that league's been in the last couple of years. And they have coaches that are national names and people know. Was Steve Fisher, but now Dutch just made a name for himself this last year, right? By making it to the national championship contest. And then Brady Hoke has been their football coach. So they have some national recognition, but the big thing for Yormark is, hey, we want to be a national conference. They want SoCal. That's why I think that's a possibility.
Yeah.
We'll see how it all comes out.
I agree with you on that. Let's look at some key dates as we get closer to them with every passing show. July 1st is going to be a fun day, especially here in Utah County, but fun for BYU fans around the world. We've got a big party on July 1st. That's the day BYU's officially invited into the Big 12 Conference. So from 3 to 5 on BYU TV, we'll be live at the practice fields outside the Student Athletic Building. Everyone can come in, hang out with coaches and players, and there'll be activities. It's going to be a afternoon party to celebrate life in the Big 12 on BYU TV.
Yeah, and here, if you're close by and can come, absolutely come. It's just a giant party. I think back to the party we had on Friday night before the Arizona game in Las Vegas.
Right.
Where everybody came out to North Las Vegas.
Like 8,000 people.
8,000 people came out to the park, and we had a blast, and we originated a live show from that, and it was really fun. And so we're going to be out there from 3 to 5.
We'll be with our game day set.
And the party is actually from 3 to 6.
Yeah.
So the show's going to be from 3 to 5. And then, so come be part of the show. Hang out with everybody for the Big 12 party, and then we can hang out with you for that last hour. But you got to go.
Right, because then you can meander over to the stadium for Stadium of Fire, which has nothing to do with BYU being invited to the Big 12, but it just feels right that it's on the same day.
I'll stay and hang
band.
out with you from 5 to 6, and so will Nixon and Brian Logan and Jeremy Spence. The whole gang will stay and hang out with you, but Dave can't.
I'll be over there getting ready.
He's got to go MC the Stadium of Fire, and then we'll all walk over and watch Dave and Journey in the Stadium of Fire. It's going to be one of the greatest days. Stadium
it's going to be super hot.
Right? 8 o'clock?
Yeah. So there's time for everybody to kind of get in and out. But what a fun show. We'll roll it open. We'll all be there on our game day set, which you see in front of the stadium. That's going to be over on the practice fields. And so there'll be Brian Logan, who will be here next week with us, David Nixon, Blaine, and we'll have Jerem and Spencer out doing interviews. And it's just going to be fun. It's going to be a celebration of life, a celebration of BYU in the Big 12. That's coming up July 1st. We'll get you more details as we get closer.
Yep. Hey, and July 12th through 13th is Big 12 Media Days down in Arlington, Texas. So you'll be able to, multiple media outlets will be down there. You'll be able to kind of tune in, and you'll see things on the news, local news and national news.
Won't it be interesting to see where the coaches vote BYU in the poll? Yeah,
and I know I'm not going down to that one, but you're going to be down there doing a bunch of interviews, so you'll be part of that.
And then we get to find out what everyone thinks about BYU coming in.
Yeah.
What do you think they're going to be ranked by the coaches poll? You think around 9th, 10th?
9th or 10th? Yeah.
I think you're right.
So.
NFL training camps start July 18th, and that means Hall, Nakua, Freeland, and all the free agent signees will be showing up for work there. After further review is 7 weeks from tonight. Right. That's how fast summer can go.
10th season kicks off.
7 weeks from tonight. We got our first little scheduling reminder from Alana at BYU TV saying, hey, on this day you have to be here this time for after further review. And I looked at that and I go, hey, summer's over.
Once we get the email that we have to be someplace,
it's just it's going to be awesome. That
crew call a message, then we know it's real.
And that show is going to be better than ever this year. August 3rd, the Jets and the Browns, the first NFL Hall of Fame game. That's the first preseason game. That's just in 58 days from us speaking here tonight, and then it's on football until the Super Bowl.
Yep, and that game, the Jets and the Browns. Keep in mind, last year we wouldn't expect Zach Wilson to play much in that game because he was the starter, but now he's the backup to Aaron Rodgers. So you'll probably see a bunch of Zach Wilson, and you'll probably see a bunch of Sione Takitaki.
Camps are going on right now this week. I read a little bit about Rodgers today. He's tweaked his knee or whatever, so he's been held out, but still throwing on the side and allowing Zach and some of the other guys. And then Taysom's back in later this week or right now. I think it's this week, so he's probably back there now. The Saints are doing that. All these teams now are getting their little mini camps.
Yeah, the mini camp. You're hearing good things out of Nakua from mini camps.
Yeah.
This past week that he's having a really impressing and turning some heads. So that'll be fun.
When we talk about scheduling, and there was some information put out this week. Teams are playing at least 10 P5 opponents this fall. So they went to the conferences, the big ones,
right,
and then said, all right, who are you guys playing? How many teams are playing 10 P5s? BYU's going to play 10 P5s, 11 if they get to a bowl game.
Right.
And so I thought it was interesting because the super conference that you thought would be, the biggest and baddest and toughest, they're playing the least.
Right. Because the Big 12 is playing 11 of 14.
So 11 of the 14 teams are playing 10 P5s.
Right. In the Big Ten leads the way.
Yeah.
They have 14 teams in the Big Ten. 13 of those teams are playing 10 P5.
We salute them.
Yeah, that's great.
That might be Vanderbilt, but still.
Yeah. Hey, Big Ten's not afraid of anybody.
No.
So the Pac-12, 10 of their 12 teams are playing 10 P5 games.
ACC.
Is Utah one of those 10 12?
They're playing Florida. They play
so
Weber State,
then
and
would.
they play Baylor. So, yeah, they should be one.
Yep, they're one of those. Yep.
ACC, 10 of the 15 teams in the ACC are playing at least 10 P5s. So where does the mighty Southeast Conference fit in?
2 of the 14 teams are playing 10 P5s.
2.
Because the SEC, their whole story is it's the toughest league in all of college football, so we need to just schedule 3 wins to start the season before we get into our league play. And you don't need to play any P5s other than our league play. And you know what? That's worked for them.
Yeah, it's great for Florida A&M.
It's worked for them.
There's no reason for them to change that. The way to change it for the rest of college football is beat the P5s. And so then you're all of a sudden at the top of your division.
Right.
And you're going, hey, Georgia or whatever, we should be ranked ahead of you because we beat all our P5s and you
only played 9.
Only played 9 or 8.
Right.
But until that happens, they're just going to have it.
History has shown us that you sometimes even get 2 SEC teams in.
Yeah.
And so I think one of the things that could eliminate that is if you're in a P5 conference and you go out and win 10 or 11 P5 games, and then the second place team in the SEC only has 8 or 9 wins against P5s.
It should be enough.
It should be enough. It would be 9.
I just thought that was interesting. 2 of 14. That kind of jumped off the page.
Yeah.
And they argued this week, Nick Saban and all those guys are saying, hey, we're only going to do the 8. We're only doing the 8 conference games, which allows them to stack their schedule a little bit. And really it comes down, for Alabama, it comes down to when they play Auburn.
Right.
Florida, maybe Tennessee, and then they get into their championship game.
Tennessee's back.
They don't play Georgia in the regular season.
Tennessee was back last year and really, really good again, which made college football seem in the SEC seem like everything was right again when Tennessee's good. They had a long period of time when they weren't good.
Some campus notes. This is a big week for track and field. The NCAA championships begin tomorrow, June 7th, over in Austin, Texas. Primetime coverage on ESPN2, and the Cougars are taking 2 really good groups over there.
Yeah, the men, number 14 in the country, going into this this great meet. They'll have 11 athletes competing in 8 events. So that's very, very well represented. And the number 19 BYU women's team have 11 athletes competing in 7 events. It's like, well, how can they have? Because you have multiple in some events and then relays.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's going to be. They're good teams that have gone over. They shattered all the school records, and now you just see, okay, we're going to run against Texas now. We're going to run against Florida State and see how we do. And typically, we do pretty well. We had a couple of national champions on the show last summer.
That's right.
From BYU. How about Jimmer? Did you catch it over the weekend? The FIBA 3-on-3 World Cup over in Vienna. He put on a show. It was the first international taste of Jimmermania.
Yeah, really cool. And he was lighting it up like Jimmer always lights it up, which was really fun, just knocking down threes and taking people to the basket. Team USA won the silver medal in this one in the World Cup. Top-seeded Serbia. And you mentioned earlier in the show, Serbia's won it how many times in a row?
6 times.
Yeah, they've won it 6 times in a row.
So they're into this 3-on-3 thing.
They won 21-19. And a Jimmer shot rattled out to win the thing, and then
I know it. I read
scored.
about it. I read about it, and then I saw the highlight, and I thought, how in the world did that ball stay? Didn't stay in the hoop. It climbed back out.
That's right.
But you know what? Jimmer doesn't care about the silver medal. It's the gold medal.
He wants
that
in Paris.
matters to him.
Yeah, he wants it in Paris. So Jimmer led all scores in that tournament.
The whole tournament.
And he was named to the alternate team, obviously. So this is a huge step for Jimmer toward making the USA roster for the Paris Olympics. Can you imagine them keeping Jimmer out?
No, not at all. One, he's a fan favorite, and you can't stop him.
Right. His game is custom made for this.
Yeah, there's plenty of room on the floor. All he needs is one screen. And he's still got his shot.
You have to have guys that can score with the ball in their hands, like that can create shots. And he does that as well as anybody in the world.
I think the world is going to get a large dose of Jimmermania
At the Paris Olympics.
And what nicer guy could they possibly get to know in this setting than Jimmer Fredette? And he said he'd be back on this show, remember, before the Olympics.
Said he'd do it.
I think he'll find out in the fall when they name the team. But how do you not name Jimmer? He just was the leading scorer of the entire world.
Yeah, the FIBA 3-on-3 World Championships. So and that's another. Jimmer's interviews out on our archives, and you can go listen to that because he basically tells us he's going to make the Olympic team, and that's what he's going to do, and that's what he's focusing on. So he foreshadows, this tournament and then the Olympics in Paris. So
he just makes shots, still does. Some baseball news: Austin Deming was named the Collegiate Baseball Third Team All-American. He was the co-WCC Player of the Year, won the league's Triple Crown, batting .418, 19 home runs, 68 runs batted in, number one in all three of those categories in the league. And I think he's got a major league arm, he's got a big bat, and now we'll see what's next for Austin Deming. But hey, All-American in baseball, we don't get those too often down the way, and,
That's right.
And he's got it. So congratulations to Austin.
Hey, how about women's hoops? An old friend of ours is in the news with women's hoop, and
we have to be careful because he's kind of our age. A long-time friend.
When I say old friend, we're old. Are we not old? He's not older than us, but he's an old friend. We've been friends for a long, long time. John Wardenberg is going to join Amber Whiting's staff as an assistant coach.
What an interesting hire.
Yeah.
I think it's fantastic.
Very experienced. And Wardenberg was an assistant coach in the men's program under Steve Cleveland and Dave Rose. He was here from 2001 to 2010 and made great contributions. John's a great technician. He understands game management really, really well because he's been there in so many big games. He's a good recruiter. I think this is a great experienced hire for Amber Whiting to bring onto the staff. I think that's
you've
fun.
got Lee Camard, who we're going to have on the show next month, Morgan Bailey, who's been on the show, and John Wardenberg. That's a pretty good staff.
Yeah, and so John, he's been the last 2 seasons. John's been back at Southern Virginia, where his son Adam is the head coach. He's been helping out there.
We like John. One thing about John is he's real.
Oh yeah,
and he'll tell you like it is.
We'll get John on the show. John, come on the show with us. We'll definitely get John on.
He's got some great stories, and when I saw that, I thought, you know what, and we had Amber on with Amari a couple weeks ago. This women's program's going places.
Oh yeah, they're going to compete.
They are going places
quickly, and a lot of talent on that squad right now. Just young. Give them a couple years.
Hey, let's finish up. We're going to finish up a little earlier than normal. Those listening on the podcast, sorry about that, but hey, we're not going 2 hours tonight.
Yeah, but it's been a crazy couple of days, so we cut a little bit short. So,
but there was a lot going on this day, June 6th, in history, and we're going to try to cover it all here in just over a couple of minutes.
Yeah. So in 1844, the YMCA was founded in London. Young Men's Christian Association in London. Why did I think the YMCA all this time was a U.S. institution?
Well, maybe because it's so prominent in the big cities.
I grew up growing up back home in New York. I played basketball at the YMCA with my buddies.
Las Vegas was big. It's a big place for kids. A lot of kids don't have anywhere else to go after school. They go to the YMCA.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so founded on this day. 1882, the electric iron was patented in New York. It weighed 15 pounds.
How do you iron with a 15-pound iron?
I don't know, but it's flat.
It flattens your clothes out.
Flattens your shirt.
So how about 1925? Chrysler Corporation is founded by Walter Chrysler.
1925.
It's so weird to think that in our life, like my grandparents didn't have a car when they were little.
Yeah.
Like the car was invented in our grandparents' lifetime. And it's just crazy to me. And now we can drive an electric car.
It's got a GPS.
I was noticing my car the other day. I'm not going to say what kind it is, but I was going 80 coming back from St. George. I kind of got trapped in, and I needed to get off at an exit, and I just stomped on a little bit, and I went up to 105 easy.
Just like that?
And then back in. And
Did
then
the engine growl at all?
Yeah, could my great-grandfather ever imagine that I could drive a car 105 miles an hour and be completely stable? And
it's going to be so mad. Some of them are going to be so mad at us.
Yeah, yep.
They came in on the wagon.
Yeah, exactly.
On this day, June 6, 1942, Japanese forces retreat, ending the Battle of Midway.
Yeah, huge.
That was quite a movie.
Big day.
Midway.
Yeah. So 1944, one of the biggest days in history, D-Day. Operation Overlord, 156,000 Allied forces land in Normandy, France.
Can you just imagine sitting on the beach and watching 156,000 troops come ashore?
It's crazy to even think about it.
It's hard to imagine a conflict like that because today's conflicts are so far away. You know, you fly a drone over. You don't even have to be there to fight a battle in the Middle East anymore. You just fly drones, unmanned drones. But that was hand-to-hand combat stuff. And you know what? I'm so grateful for those men and women that did that. I'd like to think that that our generation could do something like that. Hopefully never will have to, but I'm not so sure.
Yeah.
I'm not so sure.
It's a lot of people gave their lives to preserve freedom. It's an amazing, an amazing day that we should honor. So
that was on this day in 1944.
1965, the Rolling Stones released "I Can't Get No Satisfaction,"
and we've been listening to it ever since.
Which is crazy to me because I was barely alive at that time. You weren't even alive.
I wasn't even here yet.
I was
but
barely,
I knew when I got there there'd be a song called "I Can't Get No Satisfaction." I was barely alive,
and the Stones were already big. The Stones were already big.
And they're still around.
And they were big. They've been big throughout our entire lifetime.
That's awesome. The 1966, the AFL and NFL merged to create the National Football League, and the Super Bowl is born on this day, 1966.
That's right. 1991, NBC announces that Jay Leno is going to replace Johnny Carson as host of The Tonight Show. I mean,
Remember
Johnny
the big
Carson,
hubbub?
an institution, right?
The hubbub was, hey, is that going to Letterman? Is it going to Leno?
And Letterman stayed late.
I interviewed Jay Leno one time, and I was really impressed by him.
Yeah.
And so I liked Leno. I thought
and
he was funny.
There's been some great hosts, nighttime hosts, but has anybody ever done it like Johnny Carson?
No, when you see some clips on YouTube, you're like, man, that guy.
He invented that role.
That's how people wrapped up their day on NBC. Yeah. In Utah, people wrapped up their day watching MASH.
That's right.
That's after the late news. 2002 on this day, The Bourne Identity premieres in the United States with Matt Damon. Do you like that series?
Oh yeah. That's one of the ones. If I'm just flicking through channels and I'm like, oh, is this The Bourne Supremacy? Is this The Bourne Identity?
Yeah, which one is this?
Which one is it? Do you have a favorite?
And I liked all of them, and I get them confused.
Yeah.
The last one was even interesting because it kind of put a bow on it. But I like the music. They move the camera in a different thing. The fight scenes are different from, let's say, Rocky 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. They just used a different technique that made them unique.
Yeah. Hey, Spencer McMillan says Spencer's outfit on Sports Nation today deserves some praise.
I saw it this afternoon.
Yeah.
He was a walking American flag.
That's pretty awesome.
He walked into a meeting. I said, should we salute?
What do you do? Do you stand up when he comes into the room?
I felt like I should have.
Yeah. And BYU Sports Addict says he loves all Bourne movies, as we all do, right?
Yeah.
Hey, question for you all out there. Like, when I've been to the movies recently, I went to see The Little Mermaid live.
How was it? Was it all right?
Actually good.
Was it?
True to the story, and the acting was really good. I'm always amazed at how they can, the special effects to be able to put a real person underwater and make it look real. It was great. It was really good.
I'm looking forward to seeing Indiana Jones.
That's what I was going to ask everybody about. What about Indiana Jones?
It's not had some great write-ups. I haven't seen any good write-ups about it, but
I don't even care
anyway.
about that. It just is going to be nostalgic for me to go to Indiana Jones.
And I saw the promo for The Flash.
Yeah.
That's got Superman in it. That's got a couple of Batmans. It's got Michael Keaton as Batman in it.
Yeah, I'm Batman. Yeah,
so I think I might want to see that one too. I don't understand The Flash, but if he's got Superman in it, I'm half
right
interested.
Now, the one I'm most looking forward to for the summer is the Indiana Jones, just because it just has such history.
Yeah.
So
on this day today, the
that's
PGA
right.
Tour.
I did forgot Linda. You're right, Linda Murray. She always fixes stuff when we get it. I forgot there's a brand new Mission Impossible coming out.
Oh yeah, that is right.
And I saw the coming attractions for that at the movies the other night too. Yeah, I'm in on that one too. Thanks, Linda, for reminding us about that.
Tom Cruise can still do it.
Oh yeah, he can still do it.
PGA Tour and the Live Tour today announcing a merger to unify professional golf around the world. Interesting that we mentioned a moment ago, this is the same day that the NFL and AFL merged together.
In 1966.
And so here in 2023, the two golf tours have merged together. We're still not sure how it's all going to shake out.
Because one's a big-time for-profit and the other's a not-for-profit, right?
Well, yeah, but now they've just got to kind of, you know what, I don't know anything about this, but let me just say, when I was reading it today and I was surprised to hear it, first thing I thought of was, the NCAA was facing a lot of heat from Congress for antitrust type stuff. And all of a sudden their response was, hey, you know what, guys, we're going to allow name, image, and likeness. Everybody gets paid.
Yep.
And I thought, okay, was that to protect the books?
And no, they don't want anybody coming in snooping around.
So here's the PGA Tour, which has been adamant against LIV all this time. And then all of a sudden this morning, we're all together. We're merging. And I'm thinking they had the same kind of threat from the government. It's like, look, is it a monopoly? Is there an antitrust thing here? Maybe we'll go into the books. And all of a sudden they cut a deal. Hey, more money for everybody. And I'm just wondering if it was the same kind of thing.
The thing that rubbed a lot of folks wrong is the current tour players, they didn't gather them up and announce what was going on.
No, they found out on Twitter.
Yeah, they found out on Twitter. That's bad form. I got to say that's bad form.
And it is bad form, but I don't know how you keep it like you pull everyone together. They're going to be upset. And then you say, hey, by the way, don't announce it. Don't respond.
Because you couldn't keep that under wraps. How did they keep it under wraps?
I don't know. But that's a story in and of itself.
So we're going to find out all about that.
And we'll see how it shakes out. But for the golfer, for the golf fan, we want to turn the TV on. We want to see the best golfers.
Right.
We want to see golfers we know, right?
And we want all the golfers in all the majors.
Yeah.
So.
And in the Ryder Cup, we want Koepka, who's the best player in the world right now, playing for the U.S.
Right.
Because the whole object is to beat the Europeans.
Right.
So is it a world competition like the Olympics, or is it the PGA Tour of America against the PGA Tour of Europe? And if that's it, then just call it that.
Yeah.
But it can't be us against them if our best golfer isn't going. I'm still not sure how that's going to work out, but I think they're thinking the whole LIV merger will be effective next year.
Yeah, I'm really interested to read all that went on behind the scenes to put this thing together.
So that was the way we started the day. It was like, you know what? There's never a day of nothing.
Never a dull moment anymore.
Not at all.
How about birthdays? June 6th birthdays. 1956, Bjorn Borg, 11-time Grand Slam champ.
He wore the headband. He rocked the headband.
I have to say that Jim Kimball, and he spelled it Gym.
Yeah.
That played quarterback at BYU. He was a backup guy back with Jimmy Mack and Steve and all of us back in the days in the early 80s. One day he showed up to school and to practice. He was complete tennis outfit with a headband. And we said, Jim, what are you doing? He says, I'm Bjorn Borg. He spoke in an accent. We said, no, seriously, what are you doing? And he stayed in character all day.
All day long.
He went out to football practice as Bjorn Borg. Eventually transferred to Utah State and played up there, but he was a character.
Some notable deaths on this day in our history. 1799, Patrick Henry passed away. Colonial fame. We'll have more on Patrick in just a moment.
Yeah, 1968, Robert F. Kennedy was assassinated in Los Angeles.
1979, Jack Haley. Who was Jack Haley? He was the Tin Man in Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
Passed away today in 1979.
What was his song, If I Only Had a Heart?
Did he want the heart? Yeah, because the lion wanted courage, or did the lion want heart?
Yeah, he's like, I could while away the hours, conversing with the flowers, consulting with the rain. I be friends with the sparrows and the boy that shoots the arrows if I... Oh, that's...
Are you sure? Is that the
No,
is
that's
that the
I
lion?
mixed two of them. I mixed
Scarecrow?
I mixed Scarecrow and the heart. Because he said... Because his was If I Only Had a Heart. Hey, he did say I'd be friends with the sparrows and the boy that shoots the arrows if I only had a heart.
In the show, they're
Picture
always
me.
doing the oil can to keep
Yeah.
the Tin Man going, and I was just like...
He was great.
Anyway,
Yeah, picture
he
me a
passed away
balcony
today.
above, a voice sings low. Wherefore art thou, Romeo? I hear a beat, how sweet. That's it. That's the Tin Man.
That's the Tin Man. We miss the Tin Man.
Thank you, Linda. Linda comments, Blaine's a great singer. And I'm singing with rock and roll in the headset.
Yeah.
Because we got a little rock and roll
that's right.
background,
That's
and we mixed
crossing the streams.
We mixed the Wizard of Oz with, which they say don't cross the streams, but I don't think it hurt. So,
Hey, our Wise Guys inspirational quote of the week is from Patrick Henry.
it's one of the most famous quotes in history, right? So here we go. Is life so dear or peace so sweet as to be purchased at the price of chains and slavery? Forbid it, Almighty God. I know not what course others may take, but as for me, give me liberty or give me death.
And then the fight was on. And here we are, recipients all this time later.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, that's what truly, give me liberty or give me death. Credited to Patrick Henry, one of the greatest quotes in the history of the world. On our Wise Guys promo today, I recorded "Give me the Wise Guys or Give me death." There you go. In the spirit of Patrick Henry. Our thanks to Jordan Leslie. Outstanding interview that we opened the show with tonight. Podcast will be up tomorrow. You can catch it again. And our highlights will come to you in our email. If you go to ysguys.com and subscribe, and then they'll just magically send it to you. And I'm not sure what Jack's going to do. There were so many good things in that interview. Yeah. But the whole thing will be up with the podcast. Yeah, there you go. And next week, Fessy Sitaki. What do you want to hear from Fessy? I want him to talk about the impact that he's got two really big transfers and how they're going to mold in with Epps and with Roberts and that group. I want him to tell us all about their skill set and what role he sees them playing, the two big transfers. We've been waiting a while, but we've had to work around his schedule. So Fessy and then Harvey Unga will just shift right to the running backs the following week. So we got some great stuff coming up here the rest of the month of June on the Wise Guys. And again, we implore you to go to our YouTube channel and hit subscribe. It's free, and we're trying to build that number. I think we're close to 1,500, which is actually pretty good for a young show like this one. So we feel like we got momentum. So ask your friends to do it as well, and we're just going to build and build and build until we have. We have way more we have way more downloads than that of the podcasts, but we want you to subscribe. We want subscribers. Subscribe. We'd love you to listen. We love you to download it. We'd love to have you on live with us, but we really need you to subscribe. So get out there and subscribe. And it's at our favorite price, which is free. Yep. And to quote our friend Elder Vice Kahema, if it's free, it's for me, and I'll take 3. Have a great week, everybody. Thanks for watching The Wise Guys. We'll see you next time.